Hey everybody, this is Kris Gethin and you are listening to the Knowledge and Mileage podcast. And today I'm going to talk to you about various approaches to fat loss, especially as the summer months are approaching here in the US. It really feels like summer here in Boise, Idaho. I am sweating my bollocks off. I'm thick-blooded. I'm sweating as I always do anyway. So during times like this, I always ensure that I take more electrolytes than I usually do. I'm making sure that I have a bit of pink Himalayan sea salt, or pink Himalayan salt, I should say, on my food, knowing that there's plenty more minerals based up in them dear mountains than there is in our polluted oceans, unfortunately. So I make sure that I have plenty of salts on my food and making sure that I have my electrolytes, especially when I wake up in the morning knowing that I've lost a couple of pounds during the night just through inhalation and exhalation. But that is not going to be the topic of my content for you today. It's going to be all about my various approaches to fat loss, because I do look on the boards, I do look on the Facebook groups, I do look on the forums, and obviously I do look at the comments and the questions that I get asked. And it seems to be a lot of confusion, conundrums on how to lose your fat. You know, everybody wants to be leaner, sharper, in better shape, and not have to go through the rigors of strict dieting 365, 24/7. So there's various ways that we can climb Everest. There's more ways to, skin a cat, as it were. Never have I tried that. I only would know one way, I think, if I did attempt it. But I do know there's various ways to burn fat, because I've been there, done it, and suggested it to many, many clients over 20 years, whether that be online, via books, or in person. So let me start with the first thing upon waking. So the big debate is, do I do cardio before breakfast, after breakfast? Well, here's my take on it. You can do both. You will burn fat with both approaches. So if you were to wake up in the morning and to decide to do your cardio fasted, this is what I would suggest. When you wake up, make sure that you have a form of caffeine first. So that could come in your pure organic caffeine. The reason being that I would prefer you to take a pure approach is that because it is organic, you will be missing of the mycotoxins that you can find in a lot of caffeines out there, and you'll have a sustained release. Now, what this does is mobilize the fatty acids in your body. So when you are doing cardio, it will help mobilize those fats to be utilized as an energy source that much more freely. Okay. Further from that, how do you prevent yourself from being catabolic? Because you've just gone through a fast throughout the night. You wake up in a fasted state when your cortisol is at its highest, and we know that burns into muscle tissue, helps it retain fat. We want to mobilize the fat, however we want to retain muscle. So I would suggest, when you're waking up, you also have a serving of fermented glutamine, or glutamine, but I suggest fermented glutamine and fermented branched-chain amino acids. This will help maintain and preserve your muscle tissue. The fermented BCAAs will help improve your muscle protein synthesis. I personally like to have a scoop of hydrocharge at that time, and this is because I would have lost electrolytes during the night of either sweating or perspiring, or actually, you lose on average, for the average person, 1 to 2 pounds of weight in fluid during the night. So obviously your mineral balance is depleted at that time as well. So that's what I'd suggest. Your coffee, glutamine, BCAAs, and hydrocharge if you're going to do your cardio fasted. Okay. The other approach to doing it, being the opposed to fasted, is after breakfast. Now, the reason why people do it fasted is because they want to utilize just their fatty acids that is in their system, and that is it, and that only. However, you can be catabolic during that time. So if you were to eat, okay, this is going to have a benefit towards this approach. That benefit is basically you are eating food coming in a form of carbohydrates and protein. Now, this should be a light form, so I would suggest a very fast digesting whey protein isolate. If you don't want a protein powder, you would have egg whites. And a very easy to digest form of carbohydrates, such as oats or oat bran, for instance. That would be a carbohydrate content. Now, what this will do is raise your body's core temperature and raise your body's metabolism. It would shut down the increase of cortisol that you'd have in the morning. And then you are also going to be in an anti-catabolic environment, possibly anabolic, because you've provided your body with the starved nutrients that it wants, coming in the form of protein primarily, and then carbohydrates after. With a higher core temperature, you are then going to have a faster metabolism. Your body will start to metabolize the food. And if you are performing cardio at that point, you'll be performing cardio on a faster metabolism as if you were to do it fasted. Okay, so there's two ways of doing that. There's two approaches, but those are the ways that you would do it. Okay. Further from that, if you are strictly on a fat loss diet, then supplementation does come into play. So obviously, I've got my own supplement brand. I'm going to tell you that clean burn is going to be the priority that you can mix with your caffeine. So the clean burn does a few things, but there's a couple of ingredients that I'd like to pull out of this. Is the chromate. So the chromate is your patented form of chromium or chromium picolinate. It's a much more superior form, helps stabilize your blood sugar levels, because what you'll find with most people who eat a carbohydrate meal in the morning is that it will give you an insulin spike. When you have that insulin spike in the morning, then you'll have a crash after, and the chances of you craving carbs more during that day than somebody who wasn't to eat carbs at breakfast is higher. Much higher. So the chromate in there will help stabilize your blood sugar levels, as will the Gymnema sylvestre extract. Gymnema sylvestre in India, where we source that ingredient, basically stands for sugar destroyer. So you have a couple of ingredients there that assist with your blood sugar spikes and then further throughout the day. And the last ingredient, well, there's several ingredients, but there's one that I want to pull out that I think is beneficial for this, is the capsicum fruit extract. And that comes in a patented form of Capsimax. So I suggest people to take like a spice, like a capsicum throughout the day, or cayenne pepper, because this does raise your body core temperature, and the higher that body core temperature, the more chance that you will metabolize and you'll become thermogenic through that process. So that Capsimax, and that's why you would take something like Clean Burn 3 times a day to stabilize your blood sugar levels and to increase that body core temperature throughout the day as well. Excuse me while I have a sip of my mycotoxin-free coffee here as I continue to talk to you kids. Sounded more like a fart than a sip, didn't it? Okay, so you've got up, you've had your sups, you've had your coffee, and you've gone for your cardio. Now, there's a couple of forms of cardio you can do here. Now, if you are on a fat loss diet specifically and you want to maintain, or at the very least put on muscle, then I would suggest that you do steady state cardio. You don't want to raise your body core temperature. Screw that up. You don't want to raise your cortisol levels any more than you already have, especially if you're doing fasted cardio. So then I would suggest that you do steady state in this instant, because this will help maintain a lower level of cortisol. Okay, you spike that cortisol long term, it's not going to lead to the muscle gain that you want to attain. Okay, so I'd stay steady state. However, if you are in a calorie surplus and you're trying to burn body fat, you're not really caring too much about your muscle wastage at that time, then I would suggest that you do high intensity interval. So you'll notice that if you followed any of my video trainers, when I'm trying to put on size, I'm bulking, trying to put on mass, then I will do some high intensity interval cardio sessions there. But for the most part, when I'm just trying to maintain muscle because I'm shredding down, such as my 4 weeks to shred video series, you'll notice that I do steady state. So, it's all dependent on that purpose at that time. Now, after that cardio session, I personally, and this isn't all the time, it's just when I have time, I'll get in my clear light sauna. So that's an infrared sauna. Again, that's raising my body core temperature. It does penetrate about 1.5 inches deep as opposed to your general wet or dry sauna. And this will raise my body core temperature, help me go through detoxification, and I will burn calories at that time as well. Now, after that sauna, but if you don't have a sauna available to you, that's okay. But this is one thing that I do suggest, and I did it this morning. I'll have a cold shower. Now, that cold shower really does get rid of the inflammation. You will mobilize fatty acids. You will burn calories just being under that shower head. I just find that it's really good at shunting your metabolism. We call it blood shunting. I used to do that in Wales when I was in college. Anyway, I'd get from the sauna, I would jump out into the parking lot outside if there was snow out there at that particular time. I did make the mistake once of actually being a little bit over enthusiastic and thought, okay, I'm in the sauna, I'm going to show the rest of these guys how it's done. And I actually dived into that car park that had a couple of feet of snow, not thinking that there was solid ground underneath. And I did cut my hands and my elbows and my knees and tried to act that I meant to do it, when in fact I was just stupid. Further from that cold shower, which I will generally have a good wash, for a good 10 minutes under there, then the rest of your days can look a little bit like this. Now, if you are somebody that is following specifically one of my programs and meal frequency is your protocol, okay, then I would suggest that you eat within every 3 hours and your carbohydrates be involved in those meals in the earlier part of the day. In the latter part of the day, you would exchange your complex carbohydrates. So those could be your yams, your sweet potatoes, your oatmeal, your quinoa, for your fibrous carbs. Now, these are going to be your leafy greens, your salads, your asparagus, your zucchini, your broccoli. For the latter part of the day, they're not going to be as calorie dense, okay? So you'd pull out your carbohydrates because you want to be utilizing your body fat, or not storing your carbohydrates, I should say, in the latter part of the day, because the chances of you exercising before you go to bed is going to be reduced for the majority of the population. However, what I do suggest is before bed is maybe have a little bit of fats. You can have a little bit of fats. What I absolutely hate is when people are following a diet and they will mix carbohydrates and fats together. Not a good combination. Your body will want to utilize one of those energy sources. Now, you'll either want to tap into your fat sources that you may be taking in. Could be egg yolks, asparagus, coconut butter, almond butter, or it'll tap into your carbohydrate source. So that could be your sweet potato, your yam, your oatmeal, as I said before. Don't overindulge with both, because when you're hitting that boring ass treadmill later on, you want to be tapping into one of those energy sources plus your stored energy, that fat around your belly. If you've got both, chances of it tapping into that belly fat is reduced immensely. Okay, so choose one or the other when you're going to combine it. Now, there's another way of following this fat loss protocol as well that I'm going to delve into, not quite as deep, but I'm going to give you a brief overview, and that's going to be intermittent fasting or restricted time eating. Now, I do like a controlled fast. I did one today, and I only did it till about 1, maybe 2 o'clock. I think it was about 1 o'clock today. It wasn't a long one. I ate my last meal about 8:30 last night. And then I fasted till this afternoon. And what I will do then, obviously, is within those 3 meals that I could possibly have after, sometimes it's only 2 meals, then I will have my carbohydrates and my fats and my protein in a shorter eating period. What I will do, though, is separate my fats from my carbohydrates. So if I decide to have like sweet potato fries that I get from Nutrition Solutions with my ground turkey that I get from Nutrition Solutions, I will not have avocado. I will not have egg yolks in those meals. So I broke my fast this afternoon. Let me think, what did I have? I had zucchini, I had mushrooms, I had some lettuce that my beautiful girlfriend picked out of our garden, and I had some fresh eggs that my beautiful girlfriend picked from our chickens. No, we don't live on a farm. And I had, that was about it. So I had the avocado and egg yolks. That was my fat source. I had no carbohydrates. My next meal, I may have some carbohydrates in there, So that's another way of burning fat. I've been experimenting with that late last year and this year, and it's been working. It does definitely work. I find that you automatically eat a little bit healthier because when you break your fast, you do want to break it with a lot of volume. So I have a lot of salad, a lot of vegetables, and I will eat it in the order of vegetables and salad first, then the protein, and then the fats last. If I have carbohydrates in that meal, I will have my vegetables, my salad, and my protein, and then my carbohydrates last. By the time I get to the fats and the carbohydrates, I'm relatively full, and I don't really want to eat anything after that. So I will also, now my fasting is controlled. So it isn't the typical hardcore technique that you'd see people, especially not a dry fast, because I know my goals and my training intensity is different to others. It's not that of a professional athlete by any means, but it's higher than the average Joe. So I will make sure throughout that day, I've got my gallon jug, which I have directly in front of me right now, with my fermented glutamine, with my fermented BCAAs, with my hydrocharge, and I will drink that. I may have an Atoffa tea that I got from Naomi Whittle, and that will be my green tea, my Earl Grey, so that's got the bergamot in it, and I'll have a cinnamon stick in there, and I'll have some MCTs. So, maybe I'll have that during the day as well. So it isn't a very strict fast. What I'm making sure that I do not have is a form of food, So I'll have if I'm training in the morning, yes, I'll have my pre-workout, I'll have my intra-workout, I'll have my post-workout, but I'm not having any food. But I have been generally training later in the afternoon, so I haven't really been having that until after I've broken my fast anyway. So, obviously there's a couple of different approaches there, so fat loss is a very, how could I say this? I've been in this game for 20 years and I've just seen so many different approaches. I've never been so bold and brash to say my way works and yours doesn't. So I see Neil Hill, for instance, how he prepares some of his clients. You look at William Bonac, who got second in the Olympia. You look at Flex Lewis, who has won the Olympia many, many times. A plethora of his other clients, they come in peeled. Like nobody used to come in more peeled than Neil Hill when he competed as an amateur and as a pro. However, you look at his diet, it's very, very different to mine. He likes to eat Weetabix. He likes to have a lot of fruit. He likes to have various, certain types of fruits. He will have dairy. He'll have milk on his Weetabix. But his clients come in shredded. So everybody has a different approach. I've tried that approach. Doesn't work for me. I generally diet over a much shorter time period than the average person. Some people I know diet 12, 18, 26 weeks 26 weeks is somebody that I know that's preparing for a show here in Idaho, and he's been dieting for about 26 weeks. Not my kind of thing. I don't want to do that. I like the form of longevity that I feel that I can get out of this sport by going leaner, getting ready for videos, photo shoots, feeling good, and then getting an anabolic response of getting out of that diet, eating good, wholesome foods and supplements, high quality premium proteins, and putting on muscle. When you're trying to improve your protein synthesis as much as you possibly can, you need to go through an inflammatory response. As long as it's not systemic, it's acute. But as soon as it starts to feel that it's systemic, I feel that I'm not able to gain muscle anymore, or I'm not able to improve my performance in other ways and means. So I'll get out of that diet and look forward to the anabolic window and response that I get from it. And then I'll hold that for a while. And it kind of gets rid of all the inflammation in the joints, should there be any. It gives a lot of cushioning to my connective tissue, my tendons and ligaments. Gives my brain some good fuel and fats. And then I'll get back into it. And I feel that, as I'm getting older, I can still diet down. Maybe not as easy as I once did, but relatively easy. I can switch it on. I feel healthy and I feel great. And I don't feel that I'm the age that I am right now. I feel like I'm half my age, in all honesty, until I sometimes make involuntary noises as I get up and, in and out of my Jeep, especially after leg day. But that's because I train fucking hard. It's nothing to do with my age. Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself anyway. Anyway, guys and girls, I hope this has helped clear up any confusion. And if you do have any suggestions for another subject matter for the next podcast, please do tell me. And if there are any guests that you would like for me to bring onto the show, because all you've heard from now on is little on me. If there's anybody else out there that you feel I'd be able to get on the show, don't say Will Smith or anything like that. Somebody within my realm and somebody within my reach. I'll happily ask them to be on the show and ask them questions, because there are people out there that are much more qualified than I that you may want to listen to. So please put in that suggestion as well, either on my socials or anywhere else. But if you do like this podcast, please do subscribe. Please do leave a review. And until next week, this is the Knowledge and Mileage Podcast. I'm Kris Gethin. I'm out.